Hi, this is Identikit, and I'm going to be going over my Cosmic Crown Showdown draft in the top 8 in its entirety. I just want to mention here that a lot of these players are incredibly well-known drafters in the community, so it was a bit of an honor to just play with them. So first off, we open up a Stratolith here, and that is a interesting rare. Like, it can definitely come down and just take over the game. It is slow, which is an issue for this quick format. There's an Oakhenge Druid I see here, which is a very solid uncommon. But the big thing that jumps out to me here is a Lava Shaper, and the Lava Shaper is just one of the best uncommons in the set, arguably the best. And to be able to open that was exactly the kind of thing I wanted to be doing. I love Ruby in this set, and I'm more than happy to take it. So I'm also looking over the rest of the pack to see what I could potentially wheel. Obviously, these uncommons are most likely not wheeling, except for maybe Astral Flight. But as far as Ruby goes, there's not much else in the Ruby category, but in Diamond, we can have the 4-drop comeback or the 2-drop as well, which I would be happy with either one, or even the Dancer if I decided to go into Wild. So pack one, pick one Lava Shaper, and I am feeling good about the draft so far. And I am ecstatic to see a second Lava Shaper right away. We noticed that the rare is not in the pack, so that could mean a variety of things. So we don't really have a clear signal on what we're being passed into, but obviously going to take the second Lava Shaper here and not look back. Things to consider are there's a Mortar Trike Driver, which is a very solid 3-drop. However, it does require you to be in the Underworld, which is a little bit awkward if I am going to be playing a couple of Lava Shapers. The Lackey is a solid 1-drop to be able to filter through a card. The 2/1 Flyer for 3 is fine. And the Magma is okay for Ruby. But the Battle Hymn is also something I'd love to see come back, but we'll have to see. Outside of a couple of cards, these packs have seemed weak, so it's important to recognize which ones are the powerful ones and see what you're going to be passed into. And hopefully it coincides with your first couple of picks, but you also have to be disciplined to be able to go into something else if that's what the deck, what the draft table requires of you. So there's a paradigm shift in the pack, which is not really something I'm interested in. A Hilltop Monastery is something I do like a lot. This is a 1-cost way to just create a bunch of Valors that will eventually be able to break a stalled board state. We see, so that's definitely what I'm looking at here. I could be going into Blood. There's a Death Driver, which is fine. The Charger is mediocre at best. Drain Soul's a fine removal spell, but it's quite expensive, so not really something I'm looking to pick up here. So I do like Ruby Diamond a lot. I know that it's been pretty uncontested to be the #1 deck in the format, and I know that there are things going through my mind about whether or not I should be trying to go into it, thinking that if this is the best known deck in the format, then it's probably going to be heavily sought after. But I think the correct move here is to just take the cards that you are being passed and just move along. So I'll take the Monastery. And this next pack does not show a whole lot for us. There is the 3-drop 2/3 in Wild, which is fine. Alter Nilzan is a fine card as well. Strider Scout is solid. There's a Veiled Lurker, which I do think is quite underrated. Or at least that was what I thought going into this draft. So I think that's a fine card as well. We don't have to pick a diamond card here. However, I think it's between the Wild Troop or the Diamond Troop or the Sapphire Troop. And I'm going to just go ahead and pick the Scout because it already matches up with the Monastery. It is an Ardent for my Lava Shapers. It is not the most exciting fourth pick, but I think it's still fine, and I'm happy with it. So next, we see the packs are starting to dry up, but it's not like I'm seeing a lot of power in other shards, so that does make me feel a little bit better. So it's not as if someone else is necessarily beating us in our, to our colors, or there's no clear opening for another strategy to draft. Clobberdon is fine. The more I've played of the draft format, the less and less and less I like these triple threshold one drops. They're just very hard to pull off. So I'm looking at the two troops, the two drops in Diamond and Ruby. Dawn Scout is probably just the better one of the two, just because it is an Ardent, and potentially being unblockable is solid. So that is going to be what I will take here. Let's sort by cost. Okay. There's a couple different things going on here. There is a one-drop Diamond Sapphire troop, which is pretty sweet. There is the Emberleaf 4-drop. Let's see. The Staunch Etherealist is a fine card at 5. It creates another Phantom, which is pretty sweet. I think that card is a little underrated. It's nice to go wide. And considering that we already have 2 4-drops, it seems to be the pick, but I can't remember. Yeah, I did take the Etherealist here. I do think it overall is on a higher power level than the Emberleaf, and it beats it in a head-to-head battle. At this point, I am not necessarily getting worried, but it's clear that the Diamond and the Diamond actually looks fairly open, but the Ruby does look like it is being sought after from someone else at the table. So we may have to start looking into another shard, but there's nothing that really inspires me to jump into something else. So I'm just going to take the best card in the pack, which is Wrong Turn. I do think that Ruby Sapphire has potential and with cards like Wrong Turn, there's a lot of really strong plays you can set up. And we could potentially pair it with our Lava Shapers. Let's see. Next, we see a very late Field Medic. That is an 8th pick Field Medic. This card is pretty solid. It'll come down as a 5-cost 3/3, which is obviously not great, but in a fairly aggressive deck, this can gain you anywhere from 6 to 7 life, and I don't think that is outside of the question here. Or thinking too optimistically about it. So I'm pretty happy to take it. I don't want to play against it either. It is also another Ardent troop for me, and at this point, I feel very confident about Diamond being the correct shard for me to be in. And hopefully we can find a way to play Ruby as well for these Lava Shapers. And we find on the wheel, the Oakhenge Druid came back. Things that did not come back were the Scion of Nilzan, which we were expecting. There's the Canyon Howler did not come back. The War Priest, Dancer, and Botanist all did not come back. None of those things surprised me, but what really shocks me is that there's still an Oakhenge Druid in the pack, and I think this is... I think it was the second best card in the entire pack when I opened it, and so I was pretty shocked to still see it here. That's a very clear signal to me that Wild is potentially open. So I'm going to take it, and there is definitely still potential for me to move into Wild at this point. We are a little filled up at the 5 slot, but should keep that in mind. We do see Battle Hymn in the 9th pick. I'm sorry, the 10th pick. So this is the second time we've gotten to see a wheeled pack, and Dread Driver is gone, and let's see, Take Wind was gone. I was hoping to maybe see a Take Wind come back. By the way, I was writing down, in case you're wondering, I was writing down some of the cards I wanted to see come back in the first couple of picks of each pack, just so I could have an idea of what I could see wheeling and not wheeling. That's one of the benefits of being able to play online, is that you have access to doing stuff like that. There's not a whole lot going on here. Blood is clearly the best options, and Death Dealer can potentially be a really solid threat. So I'm just going to take it being the best card in the pack. Potentially play Blood, but we will have to see. Let's see. Still not a lot going on here. There was a Rust Tongue Lasher that didn't come back, so I'm a little bit worried about that. So I'm going to go ahead and take the Magma. Seems fine. We may or may not play it in our main deck. Prefer not to, but I can if I have to. I went ahead and moved the Death Dealer over. Most likely not playing Blood at this point. We didn't see a whole lot coming back around. So I'm just going to take the Gift of the Manthe here. It's the most annoying card for me to have to play against. And still could potentially be in Wild at this point. We have not solidified on a second Shard, but we are pretty clearly in Diamond. Making it around to the end of the pack, I'll just take a 2-drop, something that I can play. Next, I am looking at taking a Chimera Strike. I don't really like this card, but it is in my Shard, and potentially could play it. I'll just take another gift. Overall, I feel pretty good about this first pack. I mean, obviously coming out with 2 Lava Shapers is fantastic. And the rest of the pack was about average, I would say. We did see a couple of late picks that were pretty solid. So let's move on to pack number 2. So pack number 2, we see a Nefarious Corruptor, which is a fine rare. I don't think it's particularly that powerful, not necessarily something I want to be jumping into Blood for. It's another Hilltop Monastery, but I don't really like running more than one in an aggressive deck. There's a Valor Rising, which is fine. A little clunky, though. We see another Field Medic, which I do like the card quite a bit. There is the Double Trouble, which is a pretty scary wild combat trick that is going to be something we potentially would have to play around. Take Wing, Lamify. I don't really like Lamify in decks like this. There's a Wall Buster I'm highly considering. It's not ideal removal, but could be something I could take. But once again, I don't really want to play around another Field Medic, and I could potentially play the second one. Especially if I am trying to race an opponent in some kind of aggressive manner, then this card is going to probably just break open that strategy. And I do not want to play against this, especially if an opponent would have something like Dreadlings. So I'm just going to take the Field Medic as I think the highest chance of making the deck outside of Wallbuster being the second pick I was thinking about. Gravebane is fine. Looking at other cards, I'm clearly light on removal, so Bring to Justice was a fantastic card to pick up here. I do like the 3-drop Orc that pumps other Ardent Troops. We see another 4-drop of the Emberleaf Minor Socket Dude, and that's fine. Blood looks to be pretty nice here. We see there's a Dread Factory. Casualty of War is not really something I'm going to care about because everything in our deck seems to be Arden at this point. So yeah, definitely just taking the Bring to Justice. Taking, again, just as much time as I can to look over the pack so that I can be aware of what does come back around and be able to glean as much information off of that as possible. There's a Deranged Marauder as a 5-drop, and the Marksman is okay as just a nice way to come down and deal extra damage to your opponent. But the big thing I see is the Ozawa's Wish. This is the really solid rare. I saw it do a lot of work day one in a constructed, and it's already looking like we're going to be playing an aggressive strategy. And so I think this is a fine way to get back some of the cheap Ardent troops, especially the ones that create Valors and care about attacking when you Valor. So I like this Ozawa's Wish paired with those. I do think it's just kind of average, honestly. I think it's not like insane or anything like that, but I'm more than happy to take it here because I don't really see a whole lot else going on. I could have potentially even taken a Baby Yeti just to minimize my chances of opening up a Mama Yeti, but I don't really like doing something like that when I can take a solid card, and as I always wish. Again, just writing down as much information as I can about the packs and cards I'd like to see to wheel. Okay. It's not a lot going on for me here. Emberleaf Bladesman seems like the best pickup here. It's just a fine card. It's kind of curve filler. It is an Ardent Troop, which is nice. It's has a socket on it, which is fine. And Ruby and Diamond, you can either make that Swift Strike, or if you are playing a more aggressive strategy, then you can cause it to gain flight when it attacks. And there's a lot of decks in the format just cannot deal with 3 power of attack in the air, which is, you know, a fine strategy, I think, in this draft format. But yeah, overall, again, I'm still feeling really good about the deck so far. I'm really happy to be in Ruby and Diamond at this point. Clearly, it seems like it's the best Shards to me. And this was one of the best pickups I could have asked for. We definitely wanted as many 2-drops as we can pick up because 2-drops are incredibly important, and this is the best 2-drop in Ruby and Diamond at common and uncommon. And so I'm just incredibly happy to see an Ashwood Firebrand here. Could not have asked for a better pickup at that point in the draft. Things I'm also looking for at this point are Cremates, the Hammer, 4-drop removal, burn, or maybe another Bring to Justice. I wouldn't mind running. I don't like running too many, but if I am clearly going to be in Ruby and Diamond, I am probably going to be leaning towards picking up most of the Valor cards at the table, and so I would only really have to worry about Bring to Justice not working well against like other Ruby players, other Wild players. It seems like I could be wrong, but it seems like I'm one of, if not the only, Diamond players at the table from my perspective. But it's hard to tell completely if that's true or not. Canyon Howler is what I'm going to take here. I'm not necessarily super stoked to play it, but it is a Valor Maker, which is fine. Definitely something we'd want to do. It's an Ardent Troop, but a 3/3 for 4 is enough for, it's not embarrassing, but it's not exciting either. So I know we're coming back around on the wheel soon. Got a couple more picks. So I could take something like a, the 2-drop Nulzon here, even an Altar Nulzon, or another Canyon Howler. I don't really think I'm going to run a second Canyon Howler, but I like taking Titanospore. It's just a card I don't have to worry about playing around. It's going to be hard for me to be able to race something that's going to have 7 power with Invincible, especially if they are running any type of Dreadling strategy and being able to create Dreadlings consistently. That's going to be incredibly hard for me to power through outside of something like Bring to Justice. So I am fine with hate drafting there. I know there's a lot of debate about hate drafting in general. With 17 card packs, I am a little bit more aggressive about hate drafting than I have been in the past. But I still think it's fine here. Another staunch Etherealist is pretty solid pickup. Glyph of Duty is something to consider. I have seen people playing that. It seemed to be like one of the most playable glyphs. I'm not a fan of the glyphs at all. I don't think they're worth a slot in your deck. I think you can generally do better. And so I'm just going to take the Staunch Etherealist. It works well with Battle Hymn by putting out 2 troops on the board and pumping up both of them. And once again, another Ardent troops. So if you see the theme, we have a lot of Ardent troops in the deck so far. So the Lava Shaper should be triggering very, very consistently. So this is the wheeled pack. The Hilltop Monastery is still in the pack, which is good to see. Again, still feels very clear that Diamond is totally open here. Lamify could be something worth taking. I'm not a huge fan of Lamify in aggressive decks. I think Lamify is one of those like necessary evils if your deck just has no way to deal with big threats. The other thing I could take is the Double Trouble just to not have to deal with it. But since I do feel a little on the light end of removal, I'm going to take the Lamify. There's a very good chance I will not start it, but I'm still going to take it here to have access to it. Next, the Ashbourne Grave. The Gravebane is a serviceable card. There's another Wrong Turn. We've seen several Casualties of War, but that's great because we love to play against Casualty of War decks. Seeing that I have just about nothing but Ardent troops in the deck. So I'm just going to take another Ardent troop and another 4-drop. I'm probably not going to play all of these 4-drops. I'd like to cut one at this point, but we will see. I believe I just take the Baby Yeti here. Again, in case I open the Mama Yeti, the 4-drop, 5/5 haste with crush, speed with crush. I'm sorry. Could take the Mortar Trike here, but I don't really like that card very much. And our deck is a little on the clunkier side with all these 4-drops and 5-drops, so I don't think we're going to be able to be doing a whole lot of things with Assault. If you look at the 2-drop slot, it looks promising in that it has the most cards in it right now, but it's a little deceiving because most of those are not troops. So I know that I don't necessarily have a super hyper aggressive strategy at this point, but I do have some high quality cards. So it's going to be a little bit of a slower Diamond Ruby than maybe would have asked for. I'm just checking to see how many troops I have here. I could take a Crackling Magma so I don't have to play against it. But I think I just took the Death Dealer. Yeah, I think it's the best card. And a lot of these don't matter. Skittering Dark, I could have taken just to hate it, but again, I'd rather play against that than Gift of the Manti. Gift of the Manti, excuse me. Cedasaurus. Yeah, just more stuff. Wild also seems fairly open. We saw very late Titanospore. We saw a very late Oaken's Druid. double trouble wield as well. So I could have totally ended up in wild as well if I wanted to. So the rare that was opened is something that can potentially be scary. Uh, the ripple of, I'm not even going to try to pronounce that name. Starts with a J. There's another battle hymn. There is a Forgotten Forge. I don't really like the Forgotten Forge. The more I've played this format, it's just too slow. I like the Hilltop Monastery a lot more just because it does helps you trigger all the other guys that care about Valor when the troop attacks. But Ayatachi Brute is just the best card, arguably the best card in the pack, and certainly the best card in Ruby and Diamond that I see. So I'm definitely going to take it here. Again, I'm writing down things I'd like to see back, like a Battle Hymn, potentially a Forgotten Forge if I wanted to. The Scout, I wouldn't mind seeing come back. Even a Wall Buster, I could have potentially taken if I felt like I just really needed removal. But yeah, we gotta make sure to play around this Ripple of Janango going forward, because since we know it's in the draft, if we come against a Sapphire opponent, it is something that we have to respect. We may not always have the luxury of playing around it, but it's important to note. And I saw a third Lava Shaper, and at this point, I'm just jumping for joy. Ending up with 3 Lava Shapers is fantastic. Strange Marauder, I see a lot of people taking pretty aggressively, but I don't really think it's in the same ballpark as Lava Shaper. Especially, like, the more Lava Shapers you have, the better they get, because they just all keep helping you trigger them off of each other. And it is just a built-in 2-for-1. You really can't ask for more than that in a limited card. I'm super stoked at this point. Hopefully the War Priest comes back, because we'd like another 2-drop. Probably a couple more 2-drops if we can. 3 is also obviously very light, but the high power way that a lot of these 2-drops look like, it's if you have a lot of 2-drops instead of the perfect amount of 3-drops, it's probably going to be fine. Also have things like the Ayatachi Brute, which will often come down on 3 or 2. So it's a little deceiving when you're looking at the deck in this way. Cremate is a fantastic pickup. Gust Mage is also fantastic, but we really just want a Cremate here. We need a way for really early removal, something cheap to get rid of something and make way for our threats to get through. So I'm, again, very happy to pick up the Cremate. Making note of other cards, things I might need to play around. See a lot of blood, which I believe I did see a lot of blood in pack 1 as well. So nothing too surprising from my point of view so far. It's nice to know that I think we have solidified ourselves in Ruby Diamond so far at this point, that we're not having to compete with anyone at this point. So we should be able to pick up the best Ruby and Diamond cards in this 3rd pack. Obviously, an Ardent Officer would be fantastic, but beggars can't be choosers. So 3 Lava Shapers is more than enough to ask for. Bolt Spasm is huge pickup here. The Bolt Spasm adds a whole new level of dimension to the deck, and being a 3-powered 1-drop. Twilight Revenant is something that's pretty scary, and then we also see another Stratalus. So there's 3 really powerful cards all in a row. Obviously going to take the one in my Shard, and one that is going to make the deck and add a lot of strength to the deck. But it's scary to know that there are a couple of Revenants running around and Stratalus running around. So again, writing these things down. There's Gruesome Dead here as well. Feeling very good about the deck at this point. It still looks a little bit clunky. And Spearcliff Captain is another fantastic pickup here. Gust Mage is in the consideration, I think. But I think I just want another 3-drop, and I want one that creates a Valor for sure. And this allows me to potentially get Valors on things like my 4 drops and my 5 drops so they can swing in for lethal once I've stabilized. And so, not a whole lot going on for me here. The Deathwing Priest is pretty solid, though. It is not ardent, but I'd be happy to run it at this point. If we put a Valor on it, it's going to go really well. I think I have a high density of ardent troops on it. I can afford to take an underworld troop, especially if it's going to be one that I think will make a pretty big difference in the deck. The life drain is going to be really important for something like this to be able to race people. Another 2-drop is also what the doctor ordered, so this is looking good so far. Let's see. There's another 2-drop here. Again, something I'm looking to pick up, so I'm just going to take the War Piece here. There's a pretty late botanist, a pretty late dancer. Again, I've pretty much sussed out that wild seems to be really open. Maybe only one drafter of it at the table. That's a really late Raker. Raker is a very solid 5-drop. So I'm pretty sure I take the 2/1 flyer here, just because I wanted another a 3-drop and another evasive troop, because I don't really have a whole lot of evasion at this point. I could hate something like a wrong turn or the frostbite or the bounce spell, but I think briefly consider intimidating display. Yeah, I must have come to the realization that I just wanted the flyer pretty late at the pick, so I am glad I picked him up because he does make the final cut. It's not a great card, but it's something that this deck wants, I think. So now the Battle Hymn. It's not a great chance that I'm going to run 2 of them, so I'm pretty sure I take the Strider Scout here. Strider Scout is going to be great with the Battle Hymn that we already have. It's going to be great with the Valors that we're picking up off of our troops. It also looks like the deck is primarily diamonds and secondarily ruby. I don't really like decks in this format that are really split down the middle, especially if you're trying to play these triple threshold requirements, like on something like Battle Hymn. So my shard bases that I like to run are something like 10-7. So something like a Strider Scout that is has the triple threshold, asking us to make it +1/+1. I'm going to take a Valor Rising here. But anyways, just talking about how Diamond is clearly looking to be my main color here. I think I just take the Valor Rising here. I don't think I'm going to main deck it, but could be something I want to bring in out of the reserves. I think I'm just trying to trim the deck here, trying to cut down to 23. I'm glad to see that I have the luxury of making decisions to cut down to at this point. Don't remember what I take here. Yeah, Awakened Third just seems like the best card. That or the 5-drop wild. It's also an argument to take the 1/4 and the 2-drop. So I'm gonna take the Taste for Blood. I'm not gonna play the Trike. I don't think my deck is quite aggressive enough to take use of all of the assault triggers, especially since I don't have things like Dreadlings. Still feeling great about this deck. Most likely going to cut one of those 4-drops. Just don't know which one yet. Lamify may or may not make. Hopefully, probably won't make the deck at this point. There's another Canyon Howler, which I'm probably not going to run. I'm definitely not going to run it. So let's see if I can't remember if I hated. Yeah, I just hated the Root Wrangler, I believe. Yeah, there's just not much of a point because there's no world in which I'm going to bring in the second one over, the potential of just not having to play against that Wrangler. Just picking a couple last picks here. Intimidating Display is a pretty nice pickup at the ends. It could potentially make the main deck, but don't know. And Cloud Runner as the very last pick of the draft is kind of interesting. So I don't always do this, but I can go ahead and put everything into the reserves and then try to build the deck from there, almost as if I was looking at an Evo pool or something like that. But I don't always do that. Can't even tell you exactly why I did it here, but I did. Clearly going to be the Diamond Ruby deck that we drafted. Just need to figure out the exact 23 to potentially 22 cards. And there's a lot of talk about playing 18 shards at the moment, but I'm more on the field of running 17 and just being more realistic about the hands you can and cannot keep. Cremate is obviously making it in. All the Lava Shapers are as well. Not quite sure if I'm going to run the Dawn Scout, although it does look like the playable 2-drops are lacking. Now the Monastery makes it. At this point, the curve is really clunky at 4, which is pretty awkward. And there's 18 troops in the deck at the moment, so hopefully I won't have to play all of those. That's pretty high. Don't forget the Patrol Bot. So I know, I believe I trim a Field Medic and a Emberleaf Bladesman here. Can't decide whether I just want to play a 2/1 for 2. Don't know why I'm thinking about that before I just put the Dawn Scout in, but I eventually do put the Dawn Scout in here. I'm going to go ahead and skip ahead just a little bit here so that we can see what the final deck looks like here, because I'm just really going into the tank deep about the exact 23 I want to end up with, and I can't necessarily go through all those decisions that were going through my head at that time, because on second thought they are a lot more straightforward, but I just wanted to be extra sure, just make sure I use up as much of the time as I can on this clock. Okay, so we're back, and I've decided to play Marshal Josephina at this point. Seems like the best setup for what I was trying to do. Uh, Normally, I'd like to play Lysander and aggressive Ruby Diamond strategies. However, the deck was not quite as aggressive as I'd like it to be, and so I felt like Josephina was really going to help me out with the big, huge jump in the health gain, as well as the ability to lock down opponents' troops in time for me to kill them with maybe a lava shaper. I was sandbagging for them to not realize they didn't have a blocker, or to just go in. I think I cut a field medic and I cut a bladesman as well. Save the deck, and we're on. Surprised that I was the last one building, honestly, with like nearly 2 minutes or something left, but that's fine. I'm playing against Trade Corporation first. I know I've seen him around. Curious to see what my other opponents are on. Jadeem Jedi unfortunately does have to play his friend and teammate Kind Mime, but that's how it goes. Jeff Hugum playing BKYD. BKYD I know is a very solid limited player. Jeff Hoogland's known a bit more for his constructed play. However, he does have incredibly tight play, and I'm sure he will be able to draft just fine. Playing against Malzog, this is the champion that stuns an opponent's troop only if it's exhausted, though. So I'm on the draw. In this hand, I had to think about for a bit. This is not an exciting hand by any stretch of the imagination. However, mulliganing down to 6 is pretty unacceptable. There are a lot of good draws that I have off of the top of the deck. Obviously, any shard is fantastic, and any 2-drop is fine. The only thing that is just detrimental is more 4-drops and a couple 5-drops. I know there's a couple in the deck, but they are very high chances that I'm going to be able to play these lava shapers on turn 4 or even 5. I'd be fine with. I'm going to play the monastery turn 1. Opponent plays a jet cadet. That's a little scary considering that I don't have a lot of early stuff going on. So this guy is going to get in for at least 4 before one of my lava shapers is going to be able to come down and take him out. Luckily, I do have a much higher starting life total, so I can afford to take some hits like this. And this is another indication of why Marshal Josephina is incredibly powerful. Dread Putness for my opponent, and he's stuck on 2 shards, so that is great news for me. Draw another 4-drop, which I'm not excited about, but I will. I can't really complain considering that the opponent is stuck on 2 here. And next turn we're going to be able to play a Lava Shaper. The opponent gets to swing in for 4, putting me down to 19. Hillstop Monastery still hasn't done anything, but eventually it'll get online. Opponent gets to look at all of the sweet actions of my hand, which there are none. So, but a 2-cost 1/4 is not great for me to see here. War Priest, you're a little late to the party, but that's okay. Lava Shaper's going to come down. I had to decide whether I wanted to hit the Cadet or even potentially the Botanist here, just so he didn't have ways to put Dreadlings into the yard and also trigger Assault. But as long as I have something back to block, I think this is the correct play here. I just don't want to lose to a Jet Cadet in this guy. Opponent is still on 2 shards, which is fortunate for me. So it's important to note that I am not choosing to exhaust my troops to the Hilltop Monastery until my opponent's in step, because my opponent could potentially be able to play a shard and activate that ability on Malzok. Just going to play another Lava Shaper to take out the other Harvester here, just setting my opponent back further. There's a big argument to play the Canyon Howler there, plus a Valor. But I think my reasoning here is that I wanted to just be able to sit back and put more counters on the Hilltop Monastery. Fortunately, the opponent is still stuck on 2 shards. There's never a way you really want to see a top 8 go, so it happens. So now I can play a 4-drop and a 2-drop in the same turn, attack with both of my dudes, and still be able to bring a Hilltop Monastery to 5 to allow me to gain a Valor at the beginning of next turn. So it's just a matter of which one I want to play. I believe I play the Bladesman just because it is a flyer. The other thing to note is I could play the Howler so that I will have 2 Valors by next turn so that I can swing them with both. Can't remember which one I do here. Yeah, I do the Howler. So the reason I'm doing that is I can make both of the 3 power guys I have 4 power at the beginning of next turn to be able to swing through this 1/4, and the opponent concedes. So unfortunately for him, he was never able to get past 2 shards. Looking through the reserves, there's not a whole lot I really like. On the draw, I could I could change the gems on the Bladesman to Swift Strike. But I think I keep the evasion. Crackling Magma was considered to be able to take out his 2/1 flyers, but I think I have enough other ways to take care of them that I'm pretty sure I resubmit the deck. Let's see. Yeah, I do. So on to game 2. Fantastic starting hand. Bolt Spasm on turn 1 is one of the best things you can do in the format, so very happy to keep this one here. We're just looking for a second diamond. Ruby's not really what I wanted there, but it's fine. Let's see what our opponent's follow-up play is. Broodnet, that's fine. The diamond chart off the top was very, very key here. Allows me to play the Spear Captain next turn. He comes down with a 2/2 with speed. Again, this 25 starting health is just does so much that I don't care too much. Like I can definitely afford to take some chunks from a guy like that. Gonna play the captain, create a Valor. Now when I put a Valor on whatever and that thing attacks, then All Valorous troops are going to gain flight for the turn. He gets his third blood shard to allow for his 2/2 to turn into a 3/3. Swings in with it. I'll take another 3. I'm also looking for a way to grow my Bolt Spasm. I can do that with the Valor so that it'll be able to ready again. However, I think it's important just to come down with the Lava Shaper first to be able to take out his Charger. Opponent thinks. Since my opponent is thinking for so long, I'm assuming he has some kind of bounce spell, something along those lines. Opponent was just asking me to clarify exactly when the effect goes on the chain so that he could bounce his 3/3 back to his hand. I'm able to swing in with the 2/2, trigger 2 cards with Assault in my hand, which is sweet. Opponent can play his 3/3 again. The opponent does have 6 charges, so he can activate his champion ability twice. It's important to know if you're trying to calculate how many turns it's going to take to close the game, because it can be easy to overlook that math. He decides to keep his 3/3 back, which seems fine because he's almost out of cards, and I'm still holding a full grip. I believe I just swing in with the Shaper and then play the Etherealist. Or I just decided to get aggressive and use the ability right away to ensure that I'm getting in for 3. On second thought, this is a little aggressive, but since my opponent only has 1 card in their hand, I like pushing the advantage. This is going to create 2 bodies, which is going to be able to make our Itachi Brute free and also make the field medic come down to gain a ton of health. Our chances of winning at this point are very high as well, so I'm feeling great. The opponent decides to concede, which is fine with me. Let's go on to round 2. Playing against Gabesman. He's playing an interesting champion. This one allows him to create a 3/3 artifact for 4 charges, but he has to have at least 3 artifacts in his crypt. His hand is fine. We're able to play the Battle Hymn on turn 3 if we wanted to, but most likely we're just going to hold on to that but we do have the triple diamond and we have a single ruby, which is basically everything that the deck wants. So he plays a 1/1 that's able to create 2 Dreadlings at the cost of 2. A 1-drop Shire Scout off the top was probably the best draw on top of the deck, so very lucky there. Next turn, I'm looking to play the War Priest, and then most likely swing in with both to be able to play the Brute on the 3rd turn, and then battle him after that. Seems like a pretty solid game plan. Plays another crawler, a third crawler. So now these are all gemmed with creating dreadlings. So he most likely has some crazy assault shenanigans going on. I know that I have to worry about the ripple of Jinago. I don't know if I pronounced that right, but the Firebrand here is a fantastic draw. And since I was already planning on playing the Ruby on turn 3 for the Itachi Brute, there's not really that big of a rush to get the Scout to a 2/2. Like on turn 3, I can wait till turn 4 for that. And this gives us a better curve. The Firebrand is better. I can also just play the War Priest and play a Valor the following turn. He's going to swing in with these guys. These are, Dreadlings work great with Assault and Scrounge. So I'm expecting to see some of that from my opponent. Still have only seen Sapphire cards at this point. So there's an interesting decision here. It's important to consider when you should and should not block your opponent's dreadlings. If this were able to put the troop into the crypt right away, that would be the magic number of 3. He could then activate his champion ability. But since we're not worried about that, and he's also stuck on 2 shards, but there weren't really any tricks I had to worry about at that point, only scrounge cards, and since there weren't really any I could think of at 1 cost to worry about, then it was a pretty free block. Little things like that really add up and matter. So I'm going to put the Valor on this guy so I can swing in for 3, and this triggers him to have Swift Strike. So there's no good blocks for the opponent here. He's going to take 3. Going to play the War Priest just to keep going wide, and then next turn I have the ability to play the Itachi Brute for free or for 1. But most likely I'm going to play the Lava Shaper and then the Brute for free is the game plan here. So this is exactly that point I'm talking about where you do not want to block here, because if I do block, then it's going to put a Dreadling into the opponent's crypt, and they're able to activate that ability if they have, say, a shard and then a way to gain a charge, which I don't believe there are any, but just to be safe, I do not block. I do block. Yeah, so there are no ways that I know of for the opponent to be able to play a shard, go to 3 charges, and then play a 1 drop to go to a 4th charge. Maybe do some assault shenanigans, but probably should have taken 1 there. So opponent's still stuck on 2. I'm, again, very lucky to be in this position. I just want to play the Brute and battle him up so that I can swing in with all of my troops to push the advantage while my opponent is stumbled. Save the Lava Shaper for a blocker that can actually deal with one of these threats. I mean, now all of a sudden I have 9, 12 power on the board, and then 16 power if you count this guy as attacking. So he's basically forced to block this guy. He could potentially chump block there, but it's probably not going to get him much of anywhere. There's not a whole lot of outs I think my opponent can have at this point, other than things that make you guys cheaper, such as the Aerialist. Even the Aerialist, I think I can fight through at this point. Opponent does nothing. The way is clear, and this game's pretty much wrapped up. The opponent concedes. I have another very lucky start. I do recognize that. So Crackling Magnet seems like a fantastic card to bring in out of the side against all of his 1/1s. We saw 3 different guys that create dreadlings. They were all 1/1s, and they all seem to be a key part of his strategy, I'm assuming, if he was willing to play 3 of them. So Crackling Magma is a very easy include here. I'm going to switch the Bladesman to Swift Strike as well, just because going to want to be able to block on the ground more, I think, especially if I'm on the draw. Things to consider taking out or something like a field medic on the draw, since I'm not going to be able to attack much. I don't remember if I take that or Azawa's Wish out. Azawa's Wish doesn't seem great either. Dawn Scout still seems fine against a Sapphire opponent. And he's trying to decide what card I should take out. I believe it's Ozawa's Wish. Yeah. I think I'd just rather have the Troop and Field Medic. It does something somewhat similar by able to surprise stabilize myself against the opponent. Mess with combat math. This hand does not look great. Opponent is going first, though. We do have a cremate to be able to answer the first thing. There are 10 sources of diamond in the deck, so I have 3 chances at drawing something before I think it's really necessary. 2 if I want to play the priest sometime. And that's enough for me to want to keep this hand. Strider Scout. It's not great. I'm just going to go ahead and cremate this right away, so he's not able to get his assault shenanigans off, as well as this keeps 2 artifacts out of his crypt as well, making it harder for him to activate his champ. Ruby's not exactly what I'm looking for, but still need shards at this point. Really want a diamond off the top so I can play the Duskwing Shepherd as well as the Strider Scout in the same turn. Cavern Sentry is a solid card. A 1/4 is going to be hard for some of my dudes to get through. Not a diamond, but it's at least a threat that I can play on 3, so can't complain there. 2/1 flight. So we've now seen 3 cards, and we still haven't seen a diamond. Really hoping to find another one here off the top, or just our first diamond off the top. No good blocks here. I'm going to have to take 4. Luckily, I do have that high health total I keep talking about, so I can afford to take a couple hits like this. Opponent can now activate his champ ability, but luckily he does not have the shard to do so. I swing in for 2, and hopefully we can find a diamond. Even if we find a ruby, we're able to play the Lava Shaper. But the chances are decently high for us to find a diamond off the top. Gonna take 2. And Arrowless comes down for our opponent, and that is pretty rough. I decides the Crackling Tide. I think it's a little aggressive, but it's okay. Oh, I'm sorry. He Crackling Tides to gain the charge. So because he did not have a fourth shard. So our options are to play the Patrol bot again or the Bolt Spasm, but I just want to play the Bolt Spasm to have a 3 power blocker against his 3/3. Not looking great here. Although as soon as we find a diamond, we're in this game. I think we'll just have to find a way to deal with the aerialist. There's no point in blocking the 1/1 with a 3/1. Just going to take the extra point of damage. We really need this Bolt Spasm to be able to block the Warbot. Veiled Lurker is really scary. A 3/3 unblockable. At this point, things are not looking good. It's not really much of a point to playing the Patrol bot. So I am just going to play the Valor, and I can either play it on the Bolt Spasm or the Firebrand. So if I play it on the Bolt Spasm, I'm able to block his 1/4 profitably. If I play it on the Firebrand, I'm able to have 2 different 3 attack troops to be able to block his Warbot, which I think is just going to overall be better. Because this can also mean that I can block Bolt Spasm on the Warbot and then also the Firebrand on his 1/1. Another Depth Crawler. Opponent's deck seems to be filled with him. It's going to be hard to be able to beat the Veiled Lurker and as well as the Aerialist. Lava Shaper is going to be able to take care of the Lurker. So I'm just going to double block here. I'm going to lose my Bolt Spasm, but I'm still in a fairly similar position than I was before. I don't really have a choice. I have to block there. Already down to 7 and still don't have enough charges. And I'm just dead. I think I wanted to concede, but it's at this point there's no point in just potentially getting more information out of the opponent's hand. So just going to play the Patrol bot that he knows about and pass it back. He Frostbites, okay, and that's going to do it. So now we know he has a Frostbite. If we had conceded there, we would not have that information. Although we did see a Frostbite, so it's very reasonable to think that he does have one. So I still like the Crackling Magma a lot. The game plan still seems all right. Take Wing is a possibility to be able to find a way to deal with his 3/4 flyer. On the play, we can be a lot more aggressive, which is nice. Considering bringing in Llamified just to. Oh no, I didn't. Yeah, I was thinking about being able to take out the Aerialist, but I think Take Wing is just a better plan for that, and we can also use proactively. So need to find 2 cuts. I believe I cut the Ozawa's Wish. Like there's still no reason for me to really run it over something else. I need to find another card to get rid of. And the Monastery is going to do it just because this deck doesn't seem, or the game doesn't seem like it's going to go that long. Or it's not, at least not favorably for me when the opponent has unblockable troops, and it seems like he's mono Sapphire, so he most likely has multiple of that guy that he will be able to turn into 3/3s every time. I think the game plan is to just be as aggressive as possible, so I can take out the monasteries just because they're slower. And the sand's fine. There's a 2-drop. We find another diamond, then we can play a Bring to Justice, and then the Staunch Aerialist. I'm sorry, Etherealist is a little slower, but that's okay. We can activate our champion ability on time. Most draws off the top of my deck are pretty good. Lava Shaper is a good pickup. Play Dusk Priest and pass back. 1/1 life drain with flight. He's just going to get aggressive and start swinging in. No point in me blocking with my 1/1 life drainer. Just going to take 3. See if we can try and race him. I like my chances of racing him when I have a life drain flyer and a lava shaper in my hand. So Dawn Scout's is fine pickup. Gives me something to play this turn. Most of the troops that we've seen in his deck are not going to be able to block it as well, so Dawn Scout does seem pretty darn good. Dawn Scout cannot be blocked by Underworld troops, and in Sapphire, there are a lot of Underworld troops, and most of the things I saw from him were all Underworld. There were other dwarves, like this guy, a 3/4 dwarf. So, gonna want to find a a diamond to play the Bring to Justice as soon as possible, or if I have to, I can potentially start swinging in with a 1/1 intentionally to back it up behind a Lava Shaper. Luckily, find the diamond there. Can also just activate the charge ability if I want, but I believe I just Bring to Justice that thing right away, and then I can save my Lava Shapers for his Veiled Lurker, which seemed to be pretty key for him. Which is fantastic that I have 3 different answers that are stuck on troops in my deck. So I do feel like this is going to be a pretty good matchup for me overall. Opponent only has two artifacts in his crypt, so don't have to worry about his champion ability until next turn, and most likely 2 turns after that, but we'll have to see. My 2/2 will be able to still swing through that, so next turn the plan is just to be able to swing for 3, gain 1, and then play a Staunch Etherealist, putting me pretty well ahead on board. Ayatachi Brute is a fine pickup. Going to be able to get that guy pretty cheap. The next turn, if we can attack and then play the Lava Shaper and the Brute in the same turn, which is pretty strong. Things I'm worried about for my opponent, again, are the Ripple of J. Canyon Howler's fine. I think I just swing in first, or do I play the Canyon Howler? Let's see. Yeah, we'll play the Canyon Howler and then swing and then play the Itachi Brute. We can just wait on that. I'm going to put it on the Phantom to, if he does have a bounce action, we'd rather him use it on the Phantom than Deathwing Prince. He's going to Frostbite these 2 things. It's fine. Still in a pretty commanding point at this. Going to play the Itochi Brute. feeling pretty good about our chances, even though our opponent does have more cards in his hand. He's going to paradigm shift this Ayatochi Brute, which is a smart play from him. Now I have to worry about the 2 Stratalus that we saw, as well as the Ripple. So if I play this card now, it has this text where it says my opponent's going to be able to put a troop into play for free. And so I don't want him to put one of his big, huge threats, and it's going to disincentivize me from wanting to play that Brute. But if that's all my opponent does for the turn, I'm totally okay with that. So I have the options of activating the champion so that I can just swing in for more, or I can just play a Lava Shaper afterward. And since I have 2 Lava Shapers in my hand, I'm just going to do that. If he blocks the 3/3 with his 1/4, we're just going to Lava Shaper it afterwards. This also gets to untap our 4/6. Yeah, he does, so gonna Lava Shaper his Sentry. And feeling great about my chances at this point. Opponent hasn't gotten a lot of chances to attack, so any assault cards in his hands are probably not that great, especially if he's drawing any off the top at this point of the game. Still have the ability to not make one of my opponent's troops be able to block with Josephina. Time to Alpha Strike. I could just have activated my thing or Lava Shapered him as well to be able to get in for lethal, but there's really no point to. We can still just wait this out. So he's kind of forced to bounce the Canyon Howler, which is fantastic for us because that just means we're going to get another Valor. And I think just wait to play the Valor. There's not really much of a point to play it right now. Very interesting mono Sapphire list that the opponent managed to draft. Very consistent. Mirror is very interesting. So this is going to allow him to create a 4/6 because it creates a mirror of it. So it's going to have the Valor on it already. And then he's also going to be able to activate Lava Shaper's ability because he has the Etherealist in play as well, giving him the Ardent Allegiance as well. So that's a pretty solid play from the opponent. However, it's just a little too late at this point, considering he's at 6. So just making sure I do all the combat math correctly. I can play this Lava Shaper to kill his 3/3 and then make it so his 4/6 can't block. I can swing in with everything and he should be dead. Barring any wild assault cards from our opponent. I can put the Valor on the 1/1 life drain as well, just so that the Phantom can't kill it in a block. And the opponent's dead. On to the finals. Incredibly excited right now. And we are facing none other than Jadeem Jedi himself. Hex's first invitational finalist as well. This is an incredibly solid player. And our hand is fantastic. By the way, just a little fun fact. Last night, I'm sorry, not last night, but the night prior to the top 8, so the Saturday night after the Swiss. I was hitting a couple of drafts before I went to bed just to do a little last minute testing, and I did come across JJ in one of those drafts, and we did both play in the finals, and we both played very similar decks to what we are playing right now. But I feel fantastic about this hand. We played Bolt Spasm on one into a Strider Scout or a Dawn Scout, into a Bring to Justice. This is exactly what this deck wants to do. Curving out with a lot of aggression. JJ is a fantastic drafter, I know as well, so this is very exciting to be able to play him in the finals. Feeling great about this hand already because we have the second diamond we need to be able to play this Bring to Justice. I'm just going to swing with a 3-1 and play out the Dawn Scout. So our options involve, let's see, options involve playing the Strider Scout or just Bring to Justing this thing, getting it for 5, which I'm just going to take advantage of right now. It's pretty straightforward. This it was also going to be able to block the 2/2 as well, so it's not like the 2/2 could just swing in and leave the Bolt Spasm back there. Might as well just push in for as much attack as I can. As long as we can draw a shard in the next couple of turns, I feel great. And we find one right away. Fantastic. Gonna swing in for 2 and play the Blade Master, I believe. Let's see. Yeah, I like playing the Bladesman because it is an evasive threat. Also, if we do draw another shard, we can just play the Canyon Howler and the Valor in the same turn, and that way our opponent has less information if we sequence it that way. This is interesting. He plays a 2/3. This guy can sack another troop, and then he gets unblockable and life drain until end of turn, so it's a little scary, especially paired with the champion that can give him Rage 1. I'm going to swing him with both guys. He's going to gain flying, and he can't be blocked by Ardent Troops, so both evasive threats. He's down to 8. And I can either play the Ayatochi Brute and the Strider Scout, or just a Canyon Howler, and I like the idea of putting the Scout and the Brute out both at once. We can just hold back on our champion ability, because if he plays something and then sacks it and then attacks to gain the life drain, then we're still just going to be able to crack him back to kill him. Also, if he just leaves back a blocker, both of them to block, we can just make it so that the other one can't block with Marshal Josephina. So this game is just about locked up. So don't know what I'm thinking about here. Guess whether or not I should make it so this thing can't block. Just making sure I got my combat math correct. So I can play the Valor and put it on this Swift Striker to make it 3 power, to make it so it's going to be able to survive combat. And he can't block it because it has Swift Strike, so he can't block and sack this to gain life drain, because the Swift Strike will just kill it first. So no matter what, he's going to have to lose some troops. And it's not a lot of ways for him to be able to come back there. So game 1 goes to me. Very excited at this point. Trying to figure out what I want to play here. Crackling Magma doesn't seem great. Other things we've considered bringing out of the side. Take Wing seems solid. Just another way to be able to push in for more damage. Lamify is an option as well against his 2/3 life drain troop that will gain unblockable and rage. However, I do have 3 Lava Shapers and a Bring to Justice to be able to take care of that, so there's not really a need to do something like that. There's a lot of answers I already have to that. Hilltop Monastery could possibly be too slow. I think I take Ozawa's Wish out and play Take Wing. Yeah. We go on to game 2, and this game is incredible. Waiting for JJ to submit his deck here. This has been this game coming up is going to be one of the craziest limited games I've ever played. So we're missing Ruby, but there's a 1-drop, and it's going to be able to turn into a 2/2 Swift Striker right away, along with Take Wing, so I'm definitely going to keep this hand. It's kind of an average hand, but still seems fine. Battle Hymn is fine pickup. Really looking for troops or Ruby at this point, but we have a lot of good draws off the top of the deck here. Opponent plays an 0/1 for 1 that says when it dies, he gets to draw a card. So along with the Infiltrator, that is pretty solid. 2-drop, a diamond is fantastic draw. One with Life Drain. And we can just pass it back to the opponent. Voracious Zombie is a very solid pickup. So he's going to be able to sack one of his dudes, most likely the Dreadling, to turn it into a 4/2. He can also sack his 0/1 so he could draw a card. But there's no reason for me to really mess around here, so I'm just going to block it with my Swift Striker. He's going to sack it in response so that his zombie turns into a 4/2. There's no real reason to sack the Lackey yet because there is virtually no way that this Lackey is not going to get to block for the rest of the game, and he also has other sack outlets as well. Still looking for Ruby. I could play the Battle Hymn. It's not really much of a point to, though. So I'm just going to swing with the Priest and keep back the 2/2 Swift Striker so my opponent can't swing with his 4/2. JJ is missing Sapphire at this point. This is a pretty free block. To my knowledge, there's nothing that I can get punished by in blood. There's the Infiltrator we're worried about. So looking for a Bring to Justice. Ruby is a fantastic draw, so we get to play the Bladesman on time. Now all we need to find is one of our 4 answers to the Infiltrator. We should be fine. And we should be able to race this. We also have the ability to activate our champion power so it can't block and attack for an entire turn. So he's going to give this Rage 1, obviously. So this king can... Rage 1 says every time it attacks, it gains +1 attack permanently. So now this is a 3/3 unblockable life drain troop. So I'm going to take 3. He's going to gain 3. And then this keeps growing each time it attacks. So this is going to need to be dealt with relatively quickly. Again, I have a very high starting life total. So now I like using Battle Hymn. There's not really much of a reason to hold on to it at this point. I could have waited for another troop, but I think I'm going to need to find a way to race this. And so that was most likely going to involve putting 3 more power on the board. I'm going to swing in with everything. I'm going to need to find a way to deal as much damage as I can, which is going to involve starting to attack with this thing. We're also gaining 2 a turn. So I could have waited a turn on this, and in hindsight, I wish I had, but I went ahead and did that just to, I guess, feel like I'm ahead on tempo. So he plays a Rager. This card is really powerful. This says when it enters play, he gets the choice of deciding whether I'm going to discard 2 cards or whether this card gets haste. So it's a 5/2 for 5. It is low amount of health for sure, but it forces me to discard 2 cards. And luckily, I had been just holding on to 2 diamonds there. Although you never want to discard any cards. At least we're not getting rid of any serious action there. Ruby Shard is not a good draw, but that's okay. We still have a couple turns to be able to find one of our 4 outs. So I'm deciding whether I want to attack with the Strider Scout or not. Starting to do combat math at this point. So we can swing for 7, 8, 9 in the air. Or 6 of that's going to be unblockable. And then we could also take wing this to give this flight +2/+2. So this is 5, 9, 11. So we can put him to 7. If we put him to 7, he gets to swing back for, if he has another shard, this is going to get another rage. So this is going to be 5 life drain, 10, 14, 15, putting me to 5 and him back up to 12. And then at that point, I'm going to have 7, 8, 9 amount of attackers. So the combat math is just not in my favor. So my best strategy is to swing with the Priest and the Bladesman for now, and just, again, hope to draw a answer off the top of the deck. He does still have 3 cards in hand, which is scary. Luckily, I am still gaining 2 health a turn as well. He has a Cerulean Lookout. So this gets to, when this enters play, it gets to look at every action in the opponent's hand. So this take wing, he gets to see. So now he knows to play around it, which is a drag because my game plan really revolved around being able to potentially get 2 extra points of damage in while we were trying to race this thing. So now he knows to play around this. He most likely would have played around some kind of trick anyway if it came down to combat math, but now he knows for sure. So he's going to swing in for 5 unblockable. There's no point in attacking with one of his dudes and losing them to my Swift Striker, so he's going to gain 5. I'm going to lose 5. We're both at 17. Spear Cliff Captain, not an answer yet, but still a decent pickup. It's interesting to see whether or not I want to play the Captain and I can put the Valor on the Duskwing Priest. So now I'm doing combat math again because now 1 more damage just was added to my clock. So once again, I can go for 7, 8, 9, 10, 12. So I can deal a total of 12 damage this turn, as long as he can't answer that, which would put him to 5. But then he's able to swing back for 7 life drain, so which would put me to 10. as well as just dead to any removal. And then he would be, sorry, let's see, 6, 9, 10, 12. He goes to 5. He would gain 7. He would go to 12 again, and then I wouldn't have a way to kill him. 7, 8, 9, 12. So there was an avenue to win there had I gone all out like that, but the Spearcliff captain would not have had the valor in order to be able to swing in for with flight for the turn after. It's also incredibly dangerous to basically, if my opponent has anything, I'm going to die to that. So I just think the best plan of action is to try and draw one of the 4 outs off the top of the deck. But this infiltrator is just doing so much work here. Also, as soon as I do Alpha Strike, it's going to allow him to, if I don't kill him on that turn, it's just going to allow him to most likely be able to kill me on the crackback. And so that's very scary. I can't really afford to throw away a game like that. So this is gaining 2 attack a turn, by the way, so because he's used his champion ability on it twice. So this goes up to 7 power. I'm going to go to 12. He's going to go to 18. Things are looking a little grim here. I'm going to need to find an answer immediately. Dawn Scout is not an answer. So, again, I got to do some more combat math. He's going to be able to swing in for 9. That puts me to 3, him up to 27. So I have to decide how many things I need to leave back. Right now I can swing for 7, 8, 9, 12, 14. If I take wing on the scout, everything will have flying. So I'm trying to decide whether I can afford to attack with the captain or not. And I don't think I can. Yeah, I leave him back. I just open myself up to too many ways to die there. So this is basically putting me on a 1 turn out to try and find one of the Lava Shapers or the Bring to Light. Very close game. It's really crazy to think how I've been able to stay alive past this unblockable, growing life drain threat, and that's really has all to do with Josephina having a 25 health starting life total, as well as gaining a little bit of health every turn off of the Duskwing Priest. I'm basically forced to swing with the Duskwing Priest every turn because I have to ensure that I gain health with it each time. Also, going to probably need to keep attacking with the highest power troop I have, which is why I keep the Bladesman keeps going in. So again, he knows I have the take wing in my hand, so that makes all of this a little more awkward. He's tanking, probably doing a lot of the same combat math. There's so much combat math that a lot of different potential lines of play, I think, from his point of view as well as mine. And so there's each of these first main phases are taking forever because we just need to decide on all the different avenues that are available. He does have 3 cards in hand, which is kind of scary. He has a lot of things in his yard, so there's a lot of different scrounge. He could have in blood. There's a lot of assault. He spoils, so that reverts target troop, turning it back into a 2/2 and giving it -1/-1. So it innately has that ability of the +1/+1, so it just takes off the 1/1 from the battle hymn. So it's still around. So he's going to swing in with his unblockable dude, so I can't really do anything about that. I'm going to have to block his 5/2. I'm trying to decide exactly how I want to do these blocks. I think I probably should have done it the other way around, but... Or no, I want to do it this way because if he does have a way to beat the Strider Scout, I'd rather the Dawn Scout still be able to kill the 5/2. Although it's kind of minor at this point. So, again, JJ knew about the Take Wing, so he most likely planned for that, the combat to go and the blocks to go in a specific way. And he's just deciding whether and how he wants to use them. He has a Dust Cloud, so this gives this guy +1/+3, which is able to kill my Swift Striker. Now all of a sudden, my Swift Striker being gone off the board changes a lot of things as well. So I really need to find something off the top. Just thinking about all the... And we find Bring to Justice. And God, and I almost misclicked there, and that would have been huge. Luckily, I find Bring to Justice that I can hit his 9/3 with. Luckily, he does not have a way to like bounce his troop or something like that. So I have to decide what I can afford to attack with. So if I attack for 6, I go up to 7 with the life drain, as long as he doesn't have... I think he doesn't have a way to bounce my priest. Unless he has something like a hero fall, the priest is most likely going to be able to get in. So I'm just trying to decide what are the best attacks here. And it is really dangerous to attack with one of these, so I have to decide which one I want to. I think I leave these 2 back just because it's just too dangerous. Now that he's down to 1 card, this feels a lot better. This is a good chance that this is just a shard he's been sandbagging. Although, maybe not if he just wants to get his rage ability up, so I'm not quite sure what the last card might be. Now if he wants to swing with his 4/2, he's going to have to trade. He does still have Dreadlings now. That is definitely something I forgot about as well. So he doesn't like any of the attacks here, and this is fantastic for me. This means that he most likely doesn't have any action in his hand. If he did, he would have most likely just swung in here because he knows I have an empty hand. And so he would have swung with his 4/2 to be able to trade off with one of these. So he has a lackey. He has an 0/1 that when it dies, it draws him a card. So I'm feeling really good at this point. And I draw a Lava Shaper off the top, which is fantastic. Again, I'm going to play the Lava Shaper first because I want to see if this all goes down, if this resolves, and his guy does dies, because this changes the decision on what troops I want to attack with. So that is a situation where I do want to play the Lava Shaper first. I'm going to swing for 9, putting him to 10. And I'm back up to 9, and all of a sudden, this is looking like it's in my favor. Plays a Scion of Nozan. So this draws him a random action of cost 5 or less that he can meet the requirements of, which are a lot of good things in Blood and Sapphire I could see here. Again, not swinging is a good sign. There's no real point to him to throw away his troops. He doesn't want to swing with this because I'm obviously just not going to block it. It's hard to be able to know what action to play around. So I was thinking here for a long time to see if there's anything that he could do to kill this Lava Shaper, and I think that just taking 1 life was definitely worth it, as opposed to opening up myself to some kind of way for him to kill me. So I'm going to swing at the same dudes, keep this one back again. Now I can play the Ayatochi Brute in post combat. JJ's down to 1. I'm feeling great. This is looking good for me. So he plays an Infernal Professor, which he must have gotten off of his Nilzan. This just puts a random card in his deck into his hand, and then if he doesn't, every time it stays in his hand, he like takes 2 life. So he obviously can't do that. So he's gonna have to play it, whatever it is. He has another Infiltrator, but it's too little, too late at this point. He tells me good games in chat, and so unless he's playing some kind of crazy mind games, which I doubt. At this point, I've just about known I've won, but I still need to make sure I swing for lethal to make sure it's official. Swings in with his 4-3. I'm just going to go ahead and block. There's no reason not to. Draw Shard. I'm going to swing in with all the flyers. And I take JJ down, and I win the finals 2-0. And wow, what a match. I am glad that you guys could watch this and be a part of this. Thanks for watching.